What is up, Jags fans? Here we go. Another off-season episode. And there's actually kind of a lot to talk about. I was kind of scared there wouldn't be much Jags news, but we have some fun things to talk about. I want to talk about the Jags that were in the Pro Bowl. I want to talk about the picture with Jalen Ramsey. Christian Kirk went on an NFL podcast and talked about how he's one of the best in the NFL. The ESPN writers did a redraft of 2022. There's a lot to get into, and I'm pretty excited to kind of talk about it, to be honest. I feel like it's been a while since we've had some one-on-one talks here. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give the video a thumbs up if you're here early or after the fact. Either one's fine with me. If you're watching the video after the fact, you can leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Or if you like podcasts better, you can go on Spotify, search Jaguars United. And there's podcasts. All these shows go on podcast, which actually reminds me to hit the record button. So here we go. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Also follow the Twitter and the Instagram, all that stuff. It's a lot. It's a good time. This is a fan show. So get into the comments. Tell me what you think about these situations. I want to start with the Pro Bowl stuff, right? So I want to talk about Trevor and the Pro Bowl. Before there, Legend, the first one in the chat. I always give a shout out to Legend. Raiden's in the chat. Raiden, you can follow Raiden on Twitch. I'm also on Twitch. So Raiden, whose name is Pokey443 on Twitch. I'm also on Twitch, Jags United. If you're into that type of thing, I've been having fun lately. So if you're into that, that's where I'm at too. William says, "What's up, United?" Not much, man. I'm actually like really excited to be here. I don't know why. There's a lot of energy tonight for some reason. Maybe it's the Fred Taylor jersey. Hosh Aw says, "W stream." Thank you, appreciate that. Jason San, Jags United San, I love it. Christopher France says, "Fan cave, my man. Grab Higgins. Good to see you here." He got a Twitch too. That's right. That's right. Okay, so Trevor Lawrence in the Pro Bowl. This is what I want to show right here, boys. A freaking dime.
Ooh, Peyton tried to make a change before the ball snapped.
Deep shot down the sideline to Stephon Diggs. Catch. Touchdown. AFC on 4th and 20. Trevor Lawrence finds Stephon Diggs, who finds a camera
I love
for
that.
the boys.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Boys, smile nice.
George Kittle right here. Oh, man, I love it. All right, so great throw here. I mean, if we look back at it here and we take a look at the throw, I mean, this was a dime and a half. I mean, that's Trevor. Look at that. Look at the wide. Look at his right leg get kicked out like Air Jordan. I mean, that's him right there, man. That's Trevor's throwing motion on display in flag football, right? Listen, you can't bring that weak coverage against Trevor. Okay, there's obviously some miscommunication on the defensive backs. Like, what's going on here? Someone tell me what's going on here with the defensive backs. They don't know what they're doing. And just going to get upfield. No one's playing deep half. They don't know if they're in cover 3, cover 1, and Trevor beats them with the throw. Watch it again here. Beautiful. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Dot. Absolute dot. Listen, I know Trevor, whatever. It wasn't his greatest showing in the Pro Bowl. But regardless, happy he was there. Happy he was a part of it. It's good to see like the recognition, the camaraderie against other players. It's just cool to see because now they're being talked about within those elite tiers of players. So Christopher France says it's a beautiful pass. Chris Gahn says, who do really we pick up? I don't know, man. It's hard to predict those things, and we talk about this all the time. It's hard to predict because we don't know what they're going to do with their existing players. They don't know how Taylor and Ingram are the wild cards. They bring those guys back. They don't make moves at those positions. If they do bring those guys back, they probably don't make moves at that position. They got to bring someone on the defensive line in. I mean, I've seen names from Jadeveon Clowney to Aaron Donald. So, I mean, there's no telling. I mean, I'd love to see some sort of improvement there. Williams says that was a great throw. Says, man, Trevor lining up with that many star players was something else. So DJ, you liked? I want to know what y'all thought about the Pro Bowl. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought I wasn't gonna like it, but I liked the flag football game. I know the field is a little too short. I'd like to see a little bit longer field. Jags Fan Cave says, I personally loved the Pro Bowl changes. This felt like a year where the league is trying to figure stuff out, and it will be much better next year. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that I liked it. I liked it. I mean, why play a game? Like, it took him this long to not play a game. I mean, it's just, whatever. DJ M says, I hope Ridley is the X factor next year. I kind of feel like he's going to. And I promise there's a Ridley breakdown coming. I promise, guys. Like, I know you don't believe me. But what do y'all think of this picture? I know it's kind of small. I mean, I could zoom in, I guess, for the blinds in the back. I don't know, man. Like, I go back and forth on this. I heard a guy on the local radio here in Jacksonville make a great point about Jalen Ramsey, about how, like, the things that Tom Coughlin was doing when he was here. Like, I get the fake back injury. That ultimately is what pisses fans off, right? If you boil this whole situation down, however you want to look at it, whatever you're going to look at it, when you boil it down, what pisses Jags fans off is the faking of the back injury. Okay, so I understand that. But remember, Coughlin legit got fined and had a memo sent out by the NFL Players Association because of the negligent way he was treating players. He was making players come to Jacksonville if they were injured. So these guys are professionals. They have their own trainers, their own doctors, their own therapists, all this stuff. And Tom Coughlin's trying to make these guys in the middle of the offseason come to Jacksonville to get evaluated by their doctors. Doing things like that. And it's just, making guys come to voluntary camp. It's just like... this was not a good situation. And when you have Jalen's personality, and again, that personality is what I think makes him an elite corner. If you have Jalen's personality, then you're definitely going to do things like that. And when you get in a situation where he is not liking the people that are in charge, if he has a problem with the authority, right? Like, if you have a problem with authority, you're not going to work out anywhere, regardless if it's the NFL or if you're stocking shelves. If you have a problem with the authority, if you don't respect them, if they're asking you to do things that you think are unfair, it's not going to work. So I know the faking of the back injury pisses people off, but give me your thoughts. You can type them in the comments. You can do after the fact. You can do it as well. Raiden says, Aaron Donald's going to cost a lot, wouldn't he? Yeah, I don't think it's realistic. I'm just saying I've seen it. William says, if we pick up AD, it's Super Bowl for sure. Jags Fan Cave, if they had an all-star combine during Pro Bowl weekend, I'd be all about it. Let's find out who truly are the fastest and strongest athletes in the league. Well, I think you would see these younger guys would just dominate the combine because you got to think about these younger guys are working out with a rigorous workout schedule to have impressive results in these combines. Like, neither one of these guys on your screen here are training to run the fastest 40-yard dash that they can. Are they working out and doing sprints? Yes. But people in the NFL Combine are training to run the 40-yard dash because if they have the fastest 40-yard dash at their position, that could make them millions of dollars different. So I don't know if a combine would really give us a fair representation of who the best players are, because we see a lot of players like James Robinson was terrible at the combine, but he got to the NFL and he's been great. Pacheco, another guy that fell in the draft after everything came out, and he's turning out. I mean, he was the 16th running back taken, and he's turning out to be one of the best in the class. So I know running back is a position that's easy to kind of cherry pick. I get that. But you see it all the time. Those are just the first two guys that came to my head. William says, I'm honestly not mad at Ramsey. He wanted out of a bad spot. It makes sense, really. I was kind of mad at him, too. So I was mad at him like when the whole thing went down. But like after hearing, and I got to give credit to Rick Ballou in Jacksonville, who when he first moved down here, I loved Rick Ballou. And then I started to not like his takes. And then now I love his takes. So that just goes to show, like, either he's changed as a reporter and a journalist, or I've changed as someone that consumes information. Change happens. It's okay. It's okay. I won't go into a life lesson, okay? I almost did. I almost did there. Jags Fan Cave says, no, it will no ill will toward Ramsey. I was more upset that the Jags goofed up and made him want to leave. He does look good in teal, says Chris Gahn. Do you think we trade for DeAndre Hopkins, says channel member Kyle Donovan? And Kyle Donovan's the first channel member in here. Heck yeah, Kyle. Or the first commenter in here. He said, DeAndre Hopkins, I think there's actually a chance. If Ingram doesn't work out, I think you might see a trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Follow me here, okay? The way that Doug Peterson uses Evan Ingram is not as a traditional tight end. Like, the fact that we're even comparing Evan Ingram to tight ends, it doesn't really make sense, because if you look at how Evan Ingram plays, like, he's in line sometimes blocking, and I thought he did a decent job, but 90% of the time he's lined up as a fourth receiver or third receiver, right? Lined out wide. So he's legit a big wide receiver that can work the middle of the field. You have to have that in Doug Peterson's offense. I think you could potentially, in some other universe, because I think Ingram does come back. If Ingram doesn't come back, if Ingram has a bad dream, wakes up and says, you know what, I'm young, I got to make as much money as possible, I'm not taking a hometown discount, I got to just make money, and he leaves, then I think you do see the Jags make a move for a wide receiver, 100%. And I think DeAndre Hopkins is legitimately a candidate there, 100%. Way more than T. Higgins. You can get him for cheaper, because I think Arizona would take some of that contract to get rid of him. And he's good, really good. But I'm bigger on that idea than most people, Kyle, to be fair. Brian Foster, another channel member. He says, Jags United, keep up the good work. Bro, Brian, I appreciate you coming in here and giving me some positive feedback. That means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm a big fan in hyping people up, and I can tell you are too, so thank you, Brian. DJ M says, that photo is like seeing your ex and the person you're currently with get along. Yeah. That, my friend, is a top take on this channel's history. Okay? On this channel's history. Great job, TJM. I expected nothing less from you. Oh, man. Chris France says, what about Higgins? I've been hearing stories about that. That would make our wide receiver core solid next year. I don't think Higgins, I don't know, man. You know, typically when a player demands a trade like Higgins is, then they don't send him to a team that could potentially play in the playoffs, right? So I don't know. DJM says Hopkins, Higgins, Ramsey, Donald. Who would you trade for out of those? So Ramsey and Donald are at the top of their position. Donald, I don't think Donald would fit here with his cap. I mean, he's one of the highest paid players in the NFL. Ramsey's also paid a lot, but I think the Rams would be more likely to take on some of Ramsey's contract than they would Donald's. Hopkins and Higgins would both be great options. I don't think Higgins is a realistic, like I just talked about. I think Hopkins could be realistic, but if we re-sign Evan Ingram, then we're not bringing either one, I don't think. Because, I mean, I think Ridley is brought in to be the Hopkins or Higgins guy that we're talking about. Ramsey, I think they like what they have at outside corner. Donald, I don't think you trade for, so I don't know. Kyle Donovan says it does work out sometimes. Robert Attridge says no Ramsey, at least Campbell takes accountability and doesn't blame others. Culture is key. So Robert Attridge's more about the culture than he is the talent. Listen, that's fair. That's fair, Robert. Timmy Devil says, what's up, Timmy? Says, bring back Ramsey, baby. I love it. How much money do the Jags have to spend in the offseason? So, Chris, that's a great question. But the answer is complicated, like everything in life. It depends on what they're able to do with restructuring deals. So how I've understood it is the players that are the highest candidates to be restructured are the guys that we signed last year, and here's why. You can fully so right now they got contracts, and then they had fully guaranteed money within those contracts. So you look at guys like Aluakon, guys like Sheriff, Kirk. Those guys got pretty heavy contracts, and then a decent chunk was fully guaranteed. If you now go and fully guarantee the full deal, so like beyond the guaranteed money, like the entire deal, then you can actually spread that out over more years. So you are restructuring those deals, and you don't even have to ask permission from the players to do that. So what you're doing is you're spreading out that money over, and you can kind of divvy it up the way you want to. You can backload it if you want, or front load it if you want. And so that kind of allows the Jags some wiggle room, but it locks you into those players for the entire length of their contract, and you're typically going to backload those deals, so you'll have less cap room in 2024 and 2025. So that's the risk. Like you're basically pushing your chips all in on these guys if you restructure them. So if they can get that done and they feel safe doing that, then they'll have a lot of money. Like you can make room with the salary cap going up $16 million. You can make room for some of these guys like Ingram and Juwan Taylor. Maybe bring in a defensive lineman, and then just try to draft well. I don't know. All right, let's get into some of these Let's get into Christian Kirk here. All right, let's get into Christian Kirk because I really like actually what happened here. And let me see. Do I have this? Okay. So this is Christian Kirk on Up and Adams, and I'll just let you guys watch it.
It felt great.
And I forgot, to do the job of prefacing the question. The question was, how do you feel about this season, right? You had and even Kay Adams said, like, you had a good season, but your team had higher expectations, which I thought was a well thought out question. But this was his response to how do you feel like the season went.
Definitely accomplished a lot that I wanted to accomplish, just for me, only for myself, just going out there and proving that I'm the player that I know that I am and have always have been, and going to Jacksonville and getting those opportunities, and with the team success that we had, that was what I wanted to do, is help bring that team along and help be a part of something, and grow something, and that's what we're growing there in Jacksonville. And we're really happy with the strides we were able to make this season, and we're all hungry for next year though.
You obviously were in Arizona, so you got the
So that's they talked about him a little bit because he's from Arizona, and I loved it. He actually talked about how he's going to the Waste Management Open, which is the golf tournament down there in Arizona. It has that, I think it's 18. It's either hole 16 or hole 18, where like all the fans are like around, like the stadium style, kind of like TPC has. And you might have seen the videos where like the guy made a hole in one. Everyone's throwing their beer on the I can't remember which hole it is, but he's from there, and he said he's going, which I love because I'm a golfer myself, so I love hearing that. But Kirk, goes on to say that he thinks he's one of the top receivers in the NFL, and it's interesting. It's interesting to me because I wasn't sure how to view Christian Kirk's like kind of demeanor or personality, right? I don't know much about him. This is his first year here. I kind of always thought he was some kind of laid back, chill, doesn't want the spotlight type guy. I mean, that was just the impression I got. But even in this interview, he sounds very humble, obviously, but it's for him to say this. And so, the counter argument would be like, what else is he going to say? Because he did hype up Trevor, he did hype up Peterson, but I don't know. I liked it. I just didn't expect it. So, what do y'all think? Do y'all think that he is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL? I don't know. William says, make sure y'all like the video. Yeah, if you're watching the video, hit the thumbs up button. I would really appreciate that. It helps like the YouTube algorithm and like the For You pages for, other people that watch other Jags content. So it helps, and it's easy to do. If you're listening to the podcast and you're like, what the heck is he talking about? You can watch the YouTube video if you want, or podcast, either way. Jags Fan Cave says, I think Doug Peterson would be able to handle any attitude flare-ups from Ramsey since Peterson was able to keep the ship straight after the 5-game losing streak. DJM says, the Pro Bowl showed how good Trevor is. He was the only AFC quarterback to win the flag football game. Knicks beat Magic. Let's go. Nick State, baby. Nick, we're not getting into that right now. I'm going to be watching. I I did get to watch most of the game. Obviously, I didn't get to watch the very end because of the show, but I'm glad that they won. I appreciate you filling me in there. All right, so I'm trying to pull up Kirk's. They asked him about Trevor Lawrence.
Year, but also stay within himself. It's easy, and I know everybody, talks about, the Chargers games, but there are so many different times. You look in October, we were on a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
And, he never blinked. His approach never changed. If anything, he worked even harder. He was hard on himself. He was critical, accountable, and, when you have those type of qualities, especially in a quarterback who just turned 23 this year, it's pretty special. So he's only going to get better, and those are some of the things that I appreciate about him.
I mean, those are all like great things to say about your quarterback. I mean, just from a guy like Christian Kirk, who's been with Kyler Murray, he's been in that Texas A&M system where they have good quarterbacks and coaches. For him to say those things, I mean, that's impressive. Timmy Devil says, he loves Jalen. I want him back. The front office should have never disrespected him. It's probably fair. Jags Fan Cave says, I'd easily take 10 different guys over Kirk right now. He's an incredible player, but he isn't one of the elite wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, if you take away the team he was on from his career stats, and you take away the quarterbacks that he had in his career stats, and you just looked at them all. You guys know me. I'm a statistician. I like to look at analytics and stats. It doesn't mean I always believe in them, but I love to look at them. And I like to look at stats from a different point of view because, I don't know, my brain's weird like that. If you take his entire body of work, he's kind of the same guy. Yeah, he had his career best year this year, but it wasn't much from his average, right? I mean, he was having 900, 800 yard seasons in Arizona where he was the number 2. He's behind guys like Hopkins and AJ Green. I mean, he's behind all Ertz. I mean, he's behind all these guys. He's came here to be the number 1, and he just barely had a bump up in his career average. Now, I like him, and I think he's really good. And I think the position the Jaguars in last year, you had to go out and make a move for a guy like Kirk, and it worked out. It has. But, yeah, I mean, we're talking about trade. On this show alone, we've talked about trading for 2 guys I'd rather have over Christian Kirk. We've talked about Calvin Ridley, who might be better than Christian Kirk. So just passively, we've mentioned 3 receivers who we all probably think are better than Christian Kirk. And I don't want anyone to take this as a diss to Christian Kirk. Not at all. I mean, he was the perfect player at the perfect time for this team. But to say he's a top 5 wide receiver, even a top 10, I think he's around 10, if I'm being completely honest, which is very good. Think about that. And again, I don't want this to get lost, because I will never disrespect a player. These guys are at the top of their field. I mean, think about that. He's one of the 10 best players in the world at doing his job. I mean, that's impressive. Very impressive. And the fact that we're even arguing between, is he top 5 or top 10? That could be a real question. Does it matter? These guys are so good. If you have a top 10 wide receiver, you shut up, take him, play, quit talking about it. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe. Those people may have an argument. Astrid says, look up Kirk's ranking this year as far as what? Yards? I mean, what stat could we look up that could completely encompass what he adds to a team? Because I think his value as a blocker might be top 5. I mean, he's one of the better willing run blockers that I've seen. So how do you factor that in? How do you factor in a guy that can play the slot 100% of the time in an offense where Doug Peterson uses that, whether to take away defenders to get other guys open? There's a lot of variables you can't quantify. That's the problem. As much as I am into stats, it's hard to quantify those things. I mean, catch drop rate compared to targets. I mean, do we look at that? Do we look at route running win rates, but decided by PFF guys? Like, I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's just hard to. It's just hard. I mean, wide receiver rankings according to who? Yards, catches, you know, it's just hard. I see what you're saying, Robert. I mean, yards, wide receiver yards, 2022. All right, so we're going off straight yards. Okay. Straight yards, you're at Justin Jefferson with 1809, Tyreek Hill 1710, Kelsey, tight end, 1338. Big drop off. Notice this between Hill and Jefferson. But again, look, the offenses, both these offenses were set up for, you know, the pass. Kelsey, Diggs. These are receptions. Sorry, guys. Let's go yards. Devontae Adams moves into third when we go to yards. A.J. Brown moves into fourth when we go to yards. Diggs, fifth. Lamb, Waddle, Kelsey, Smith, McLaurin, St. Brown, Cooper, Evans, and then Kirk at 1108. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14th in yards. 84 receptions will put him down around the same spot, maybe a little bit lower when you bring in guys like McCaffrey, Hawkinson, and things like that. Touchdowns, let's see here. If we go touchdowns, then he moves up a little bit to around 10 or 11 with 18. Or I'm sorry, not 18, 8. So, I mean, look at the targets, though. I mean, it's Kirk, 133 targets. I mean, it's about average. Just kind of eyeballing this. It's about average. I mean, Adams had the most. Kittle had the least. I don't know. It's just hard to quantify. Look at PFF. PFF wide receiver rankings. Adams, Coop, Kupp, Hopkins, and the elite. Diggs. Is this from this year? Yes. No. This is old. Sorry, guys. All right. Receiver ranking. PFF. Tyreek Hill, number 1, 92. Kirk, 33rd. 33rd. Now, I know the PFF haters are coming out. I know they are. You know, and I get it. And when you look at the yards, look at this. I mean, 553 from DeAndre Hopkins, 980, all less. Nico Collins is ranked 35th, according to PFF, just after Hopkins and Kirk, who were tied for 33rd. And he only had 441 yards. But he was still evaluated as 35th most valuable. Guys like Cook, Tutu Atwell, Michael Pittman. All right. So, I mean, look, we can go through this list and see who we would rather have. All right. So we got Kirk here. Hopkins, I'd rather have Hopkins. Moore, I'd rather have Kirk. Debo, I'd rather have Debo. Parker, I'd rather have Kirk. Burks, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'd rather have Burks. Evans, I'd rather have Evans. Jacoby Myers is good for him. Godwin, a lot of people wanted Godwin instead of Kirk. So we'll go also draw. Hodgins, definitely taking Kirk. Watson, youth on his side, but we'll definitely take Kirk. So we have so far one. Okay, we want this and this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. We'll scroll up. All right, Metcalf. I think most people would take Metcalf. What does this change? Lockett. I'd say it's a draw. Judy, that's a draw. Higgins, I think people would rather have Higgins. Ayuk, Kirk, probably. Mike Williams, McLaurin, Devonta Smith, Amari Cooper, Olave, Waddle, Wilson, London. London, maybe. I like London, but I think most people won't. So we'll say Kirk's better. Chase, Allen, Lamb. I mean, keep going here. I mean, Kupp, Brown, Diggs, Adams, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, and Tyreek Hill. So there's 5 people on this list ahead of Christian Kirk, ahead of PFF's rankings. There's 5 people who I would take Christian Kirk over. So where does that put him in his actual ranking? PFF's a joke. PFF grading sucks. Listen, I am not saying that it's the truth. I'm just saying I went through all 32 people ranked ahead of Christian Kirk on this list, and I would take everyone but 5 over Christian Kirk. So I would move him up 5 spots. Okay? To 28. Now, some of this factoring in was youth and draws, right? So when you get guys like Tyler Lockett, who I called it a tie, right? You know, so maybe you can move him up for that. Jerry Jeudy, a tie, I think. Chris Olave, a tie, because I mean, all these guys have youth on Kirk and a better contract. Drake London, I gave you, but I don't know. So tell me I'm wrong. Maybe. I don't know. Everyone with less than 1,000 yards. But you know how it is, Robert. I mean, it's injuries. And again, I don't want this to be like an anti-Kirk thing. I just think if we're talking about top 5 wide receiver, if we factor in contracts and youth, there might be 27 people I take over him. And you could make an argument, right, with guys, like I said, I mean, I don't think any of these guys that I said Kirk was worse than, you know, I don't know. Organized by yards, I'm curious to know how the grades from that perspective. Okay. Let's see here. I have to zoom out for that. Let's see. I'm zoomed in for you guys. Let's see here. Wide receivers. Okay, so these are snaps. I'm gonna have to go by. No, I can't do that right now. Sorry. I don't know. Again, not saying anything bad about him at all. Yeah, sorry, Matthew. I tried. I could do it here. Give me a second. I'll do it for you. Because I'm actually curious. I'm actually curious, just like you. Receiving grade. I don't know if I can. Give me 1 second here, boys. NFL. Receiving grades. All targets. Oh, here we go. We got him, boys. We got him. See? Just give me some time. Be patient. Okay. So, here we go. This is by yards. Okay, we'll go through them. Okay? And I'll be honest. If you disagree, let me know. Obviously, we're all taking Justin Jefferson. We're all taking Tyreek Hill, Diggs, Brown, Lamb, Adams, Kelsey, Waddle, Devonta, Chase over Kirk. Right? Like, are you trading any of these guys? And again, yards are good. If we look at his receiving percentage, it's a little bit lower than average from all these guys. But just by eyeballing it, your average is about 70 probably. And he's a little bit under average, I think. Receptions, definitely on the lower end of receptions. Only Jalen Waddle had less receptions than him on this list. Impressive that he's up here. But then let's just go down. Okay, so this is where it'll get interesting. I think most people would take Mike Evans. Why does the size of this thing change? That's infuriating. I think most people would take Mike Evans over Kirk. I think most people would take Scary Terry and Metcalf and Higgins. Maybe Amon-Ra becomes an argument here. Maybe. I think I would rather have Amon-Ra. Amari Cooper is, maybe you'd rather have Kirk than Cooper, but I would probably take Cooper. Ayuk, I would honestly take Kirk over Ayuk, so we'll give Kirk that. Godwin, we'll call a tie. Garrett Wilson, I would call a tie. Lockett's a tie. Olave's a tie. These guys are all, until you get down to guys like Zay Jones and Juju Smith-Schuster and Gabriel Davis, do we even have? And again, here we are at that 24, mid-20s. And again, there's ties, so maybe he's up here toward 15. Listen, I'm not making an argument against him. I'm just saying. Timmy says Kirk's the top 15. Average yards per catch. Yards per catch. Now, here's where you're going to get some problems here because there's the minimums. This is where PFF... okay, we can do minimum targets. Let's do 40. So on 40 targets, Kirk is. But again, I would give Kirk. I blame him less for this than everything else. This is more system and offense, and I don't even see him in the top 50. But those like burner guys with speed, yeah, he's not even top 50. So I don't know. Calvin Ridley about to be top 5. I'm not taking Scary Terry over Kirk at this point. Okay. McLaurin never had a quarterback. I like McLaurin. I think McLaurin with Trevor would be legitimate. All right. I want to get to I want to talk a little bit about this Jaguars blocking Ravens to interview Press Taylor. Now, this is a article from Jaguar Report by John Shipley. And it says the Ravens evidently wanted to get Press Taylor's thoughts on how he would fix their offense, but the Jaguars ultimately denied the Ravens the chance to speak to Doug Peterson's right-hand man. What are y'all's thoughts on that? Do you think it's fair that Doug Peterson did that? Because I've tried to put myself in the shoes of both parties here. Like, you're the Jaguars, you're paying Press Taylor, and if you don't let Press Taylor interview, then there's probably some 0% chance he gets hired as the coordinator there. So that's fair. Now there may have been some sort of, and this is what we don't know, right? This is what we don't know is like, did the Jaguars front office come in and say things like, we're going to give you a bonus? I'm sure he got incentives in his contract. All the coaches and players did for making it as far as they did. They all have incentives written into their contracts. So Taylor made about as much money as he's probably going to make as a coordinator because of the success the Jaguars had. Now, could he go to the Ravens and make more money and have that same success and then make more money? Maybe, but the Jaguars blocked it. And when I think about like Press Taylor, like I don't know, that might make me upset, the fact that they didn't let me interview for a job that potentially pay more based on merit. Then again, he is Doug Peterson's guy, and Doug Peterson was quoted as saying he always knew that Press Taylor was going to be a coach and a coordinator, and he wanted to give him a shot, and he even wanted to give him a shot in Philly before he got fired. So it wasn't necessarily surprising when he hired him. Now, obviously, Doug Peterson calls the plays. So how much value does an offensive coordinator who doesn't call plays give you? I don't know. Essentially, the Doug Peterson tree is the Andy Reid tree. So you're hiring a guy off of the Andy Reid tree, which is the thing to do right now. The McVay tree's kind of cooled off a little bit. So now they're going to the teams are going to the next thing, and that's Kyle Shanahan's tree. That's Andy Reid's tree, things like that. So you're going to see guys like this get hired. DJM says Terry McLaurin would light it up with Trevor Lawrence. I like it. Matthew Cross says, I can't wait to see how the stats shake out with Ridley on the list. I wonder how Kirk's stats hold up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you see a dip too much in Kirk's stats. I mean, we looked at the stats a couple shows ago, and we combined Agnew's and some of the guys like that. And we Zay Jones. If you combine Zay Jones and Agnew's stats, you could potentially have 3 guys who really contribute. DJ Chark's up there. DK gets locked up often. Well, yeah, that's true. Blocked because it's a lateral move. Yeah, I did see that. If it was a head coaching job, I doubt. Well, I don't think he's allowed to block if it's a head coaching job. But yeah, he is allowed to block it if it's if he blocks him. DJ M says, why does UCF release a video every time you go live? He probably has a schedule, much like me. I mean, he has a job. It's tough to put out videos, and at least his are recorded and not live. If he put out a live the same time I did, that would be come on, I don't think he would ever do that. I would never do that to him if I knew he was doing it live because, I don't know. But yeah, interesting to see what happens with Press Taylor. I think he's the type of guy who will get a job pretty soon, probably sooner than Mike Caldwell. So yeah. Here's something I wanted to get into here. So the ESPN writers did a redraft of the 2022. Right? This is interesting. And we know, I'm not being ignorant here. I know that only a year removed, you cannot make a great analysis. But it is interesting to look at what the writers of these teams have said, right? Like Mike DeRocco did the Jaguars here. They did the redraft, and fun little thought experiment here. And he had the Jags taking Sauce Gardner, 1 overall. And I don't really know how I feel about that, because remember, who would they have not? They had Shaq Griffin on the team. They had Tyson Campbell on the team, so they had who they thought were their 1 and 2. Because Shaq Griffin took a huge step back this year, but nothing from the year before led you to believe he was going to take that huge step back. So a cornerback wasn't even on their roster. So I get what they're doing. They're like, oh, it's a redraft, all things reconsidered. You want to bring him in. But when I look at a redraft, I think of knowing how good the players are now, who you would have drafted. I don't think Sauce Gardner would have been on the table for the Jags. He is elite, though, and that would have been good. And obviously, this would have been a great pick. And having Campbell and Gardner, we would have the best corner tandem. So I get why DeRocco took him, but I just don't think that's a realistic thought. I don't know. This is who I think ends up being the pick here, Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's the guy who we probably take. And not to say the Jags have lost faith in Travon Walker at all. I just think they think Hutchinson's the guy. They would have thought that. 9.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. Here's an interesting one. I know Tariq Woolen was good, but I like Stingley. You remember Stingley had the pick on Trevor. I like Stingley, so I don't know. I don't know if I would agree with this pick either. I think, Woolen's good. Maybe I haven't watched him. This one here, though, the Jets taking Brock Purdy, this was obviously just to get clicks right here. There's no way, even I think knowing what you know now, you take Brock Purdy. The guy's going to be out for the whole season next year. Durability is availability when it comes to the NFL. New York Giants, I love this. Original pick, Kayvon Thibodeau. New pick, Kayvon Thibodeau. I love that. Way to go, Jordan Ronan. Panthers, I think there's still hope for Aquanu. I do like Tyler Smith, though. But Aquanu, I think Aquanu is going to be good. Evan Neal, Garrett Wilson. I told you guys, Garrett Wilson's the real deal now. He was a guy who I think was comparable to Christian Kirk, especially with the youth. Another guy, Drake London. These are guys going 7 and 8 in the redraft. Doug said Taylor goes over scheme with position coaches, then Taylor plans it out. Okay. Atchert says Jets should have gotten Justin Fields. Yeah, that's probably who they would have taken. I think you're right. Charles Cross. I like that. Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, only because Garrett Wilson was picked, so they went with the next best wide receiver and took Christian Watson. So I can't disagree with this. I get why Rick Cimini is saying this, but I don't think it's realistic there. New pick of Quan. Why does it change? Like, this is the size of the pencil changes like randomly. I need to talk to the people over at Epic Pen. Chris Olave is also gone, and so they traded up. So I think Aquanu is now your pick there, which is a depth. This one's interesting. So Detroit traded up for Jameson Williams. If you guys remember, I said Jameson Williams would have been my top pick in this draft. Detroit traded up for him at 12, and Kevin Seifert, writer for the Vikings, said that they would have taken Jameson Williams at this pick. And think about it, Jameson Williams didn't play that much. I mean, he was rebuilding from a torn ACL. This is it, man. Watch out for Jameson. We'll go through these other ones quick. Jordan Davis falling in the draft, Olave. Hamilton falling in the draft to Pickens. Trayvon Walker now moves to D end at 15 to the Eagles. Original pick, Jahan Dotson for the Saints from Washington. So this is just weird because a bunch of the trades. So I don't even know how they do this. Jordan Davis. So he gets a little muddy from here for sure. Would you still take ETN in the 2021 redraft? Great question, Jags fan. Cave? I think so. I like ETN. I think that he's more than a running back. I think he's a skill position player. He gives you versatility in the pass game. Hopefully, not as much as we thought, but he does. So yeah, I'm okay with that. Walker needs to go on Von Miller's camp. Yeah, you're telling me, man. Yeah, that's 100% sure. DJM says, I'll wait for their sophomore year to give 2022 draftees a true opinion. Yeah, and that's fair. So, I don't know. I just love that there's like Jag stuff to talk about here on Tuesday. It's in the offseason. It's great. I'm super excited because I got what's up, DTWD, says Duval in the chat. Okay, I'm super excited about two things. Thursday, doing a special show with a special guest. James Coleman, who on the radio, FSU alum, the man when it comes to talking about sports. We're gonna be talking Super Bowl. We're gonna be talking all things on Thursday. So I'm excited to have him on. So make sure set your calendars, reminders for 8 p.m. on Thursday. Typically we do shows at 9 p.m., but we're doing 8 p.m. this week on Thursday for that show. And if you missed my interview with Dalton Dixon, go watch the last video. It was so much fun. He's so knowledgeable. I love it. My second thing I'm excited about is my daily shows are starting soon. I'm thinking, I don't know, mid-February. The daily shows on my other channel, I'll pump that more as I get closer to it. I'm not going to pump it now, but daily shows talking all things sports. So if you guys like the content, hopefully I'll have the mic stand fixed by then. Daily shows, I love talking sports, so I'm going to keep doing it. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you to all the channel members that were here. We had a good amount of channel members here tonight. Kyle Donovan, Brian Foster. We had some of the usual suspects in here. DJM, we had Robert Atzert, Timmy Devil, DTWD, Jags Fan Cave, all you guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Before you leave, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Share it with a friend who's a Jags fan. What's the channel going to be called? Okay, so I'll DJM. I'll tell you more about it. It's called the Jay Trent Show. I don't know. It's a working title, but it's I don't care about titles. Okay, so we're going to be there, and it's going to be a good show. A YouTube channel. Actually, I already exist as a YouTube channel. I just got to start putting the content. Fire Show. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Listen, I love you guys. Do all this subscribing and following and all that stuff.